All right, good evening, everybody. We are here for some Phantom Brigade tonight, although I am struggling with the day. It was a tough one, and I'm obviously coming to you at least half an hour later than the latest time I would like to come to you. But we will persevere. Sorry. Saw something strange. I was mistaken. I think at some point I'd said that it might have been Industries of Titan tonight. Got no problem with Industries of Titan, but that game will be getting an update next week. So we will be returning to that. Excuse me. We'll be returning to that on next week. And then my schedule's a mess. I still don't know what I'm doing on Friday, but I suspect, given the way the week has gone, it will probably be Old World, and then I just won't have time for any other extras. Although I guess I can't remember if it was one on Tuesday or not. Anyways, we've had extra streams, so I don't feel too bad about where we're sitting. What gives? I got to prepare myself for the quick read of the opening notes to Phantom Brigade. But I thought I'd told it to open. Oh, I'm getting a running message, so maybe I just need to be patient. The issues from today, it's basically just the same as as what it usually is. It's lack of sleep. I do have a small coffee in front of me, and I'm trying to skirt the line of waking myself up, but not keeping myself awake all night. This is probably not a good idea, but I don't know. It was inexpensive and it tastes good. There we go. Welcome to the Brigade. We're excited for you to experience Phantom Brigade and to have your help shaping its development in its early access period. During the course of development, some aspects of the game might feel rough, sparse, or buggy. Every month we'll release a major update, which will include bug fixes, new features, and quality of life improvements for players. We appreciate your patience and feedback throughout the process as we work to deliver the most important features and fixes. From the main menu, check out our early access roadmap to see what's coming next for Phantom Brigade. Reach out to us via the Brace Yourself Games Discord community or read the latest patch notes for the latest changes and no issues. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We look forward to making Phantom Brigade better and better with your help. Nailed it! A very small percentage of people may experience a seizure when exposed to certain visual images, including flashing lights and visual patterns. These seizures may have a variety of symptoms, including lightheadedness, altered vision, eye or face twitching, jerking, or shaking of arms or legs, disorientation, confusion, or momentary loss of awareness. Immediately stop playing and consult a doctor if you experience any of these symptoms. If you or your relatives have a history of seizures or epilepsy, it is recommended that you consult a doctor before playing. Powered by Wise. And here is this cool opening menu. One thing, so disclosures out of the front, because I'm going to say good things about the game. I've been given a key for this game from Brace Yourself for promotional purposes. They haven't asked me to say anything else about the game, but I think very, very highly of Brace Yourself, the excellent people who brought you Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence of Hyrule, Industries of Titan, and Phantom Brigade. Phantom Brigade is the only one... Well, sorry, that's not true. Half of the Brace Yourself games are available on Steam currently. Cadence of Hyrule is available on Switch. But, as always, it's good to disclose this sort of stuff, and you will... So you've kind of gotten an example... Okay, so, personally, I really don't care if you buy... Songs of Conquest through GOG. In fact, you can get Songs of Conquest cheaper if you get it on the Epic Store right now. But if somebody asks me, hey, as part of this promotional, please direct them to our storefront, I will do so. I will not say that GOG is the best place to get the game, but I'll maybe be kind enough not to make too big of a deal about the other storefronts, because I kind of expect people can do that on their own. I don't think anybody has bought from a storefront that they don't want to because of me, or any broadcaster for that matter. It just seems like such a minor thing to take care of. But I don't know, there's a difference between you know, like, if you agree to do something, if you accept something for, you know, for promotion or that, read the lines, right? Don't, basically just don't agree to stuff that you, you know, that you don't feel comfortable taking. Like, Songs of Conquest is a fine game. It's not that expensive. I could buy it if I feel that strongly. But, excuse me. Thing is, it just means it's less likely for me to stream. So, you know, getting the key is kind of nice. And in this case, it was a game developer, not sorry, a game platform rather than a game developer that that set the key. But sorry. I don't know where this tickle in my throat came from, but it's really annoying. The reason why I'm bringing this up is it does highlight how awkward I get when people have a specific thing they want me to say. Because, like, I don't know, I just make the thing valuable and it's easy to recommend on its own. And, like, so in the case of Phantom Brigade, I have no problem saying this game is amazing and I really want to talk about it and show it to you. Whereas GOG, it's kind of like, it's a storefront. It's a storefront that I have major problems with as a partner because they didn't pay me money. Hi, I'm System Jock and welcome to Jackass. How you doing? Whiskey is amazing. I haven't seen Jackass, so I don't know how the what the line is supposed to be. But Phantom Klepto, good to see you too. But yeah, like, it's not the time to like air that dirty laundry. I took the key. I didn't mind, you know, driving traffic to their page because I suspect all of you are going to do what you normally do, which is, you know, oh yeah, game looks cool, I'll buy it on Steam, and that's totally fine. That's, you know, it's up to Epic and GOG to make a platform that you know, that you feel comfortable buying on, and if they can't offer you value on top of, you know, where you can get the game anywhere else, you know, the fact that you saw my stream doesn't, you know, like, that doesn't mean anything as far as obligations to pick it up. At the beginning of each Jackass movie and every episode of the show, Johnny Knoxville says, "Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and welcome to The Price is Right." Sorry, Jackass. Yeah, I kind of figured that was the opener. I just didn't know if I was supposed to say it a certain way. But with that massive, that would be a definite change of pace. With all that scaffolding out of the way, I just wanted to say, like, there's little details, maybe not so little details, but there's things that I just really like about this game. The thing that I probably like the most about this game is gorgeous and stylish, and it knows it. So little touches like being able to hear this music, and being able to, you know, look at these really great images. If you're just sitting there staring at the opening menu like I am, the game knows to let the UI just go into the background. Obviously the development build in the bottom corner, we're still on the experimental branch, so that's not going to go away until they stop developing the game, I suspect. But, well, or you could play, like, the early access base version of the game, and it won't be there. But yeah, although I never take attendance, Phantom Klepto, so I'm happy to see you one way or the other. I hope you are looking forward to some Phantom Brigade, because I am. As you can tell by me not loading the overworld map. But no, I just wanted to take a second to talk about this, because it's neat to just be able to kind of take every little facet. Like, so this is, you know, not gameplay. This is just hyping me up for the experience. And I do want to highlight, like, there's definitely value in that. Like, Brace Yourself do amazing trailers for their game. So particularly the teaser for this one shows you this mech combat, and it's from a perspective that's quite different than the game. But to me, that just helps establish the fantasy. So I believe I'm at the point now where everything that's been done in that trailer is something I can do in the game now. And I still think of that trailer when certain actions happen in the game. And so likewise here, right? You get to see these nice close-up, moment in time action shots of the mech, and it's the same idea, right? It's building it's building this world in your mind so that in addition to thinking through your strategy, you have you have all of these mental images in the back of your head in terms of what you're doing. Last time was years ago when you were playing either Stellaris or RTS mech game. You're not thinking of Brigador, are you? Because the developers have been on Twitch again lately, and I'm all about that. I really should do Brigador again. But yeah, so it's a nice little thing. Like this, I'm not gonna play this opening screen other than like put it on display play. It's good to have you in here, Whiskey. I'm glad. Obviously our main points of contact are kind of infrequent now, but it's always it's. I like it when you're here. Cool. How's that for memory? Brigador's definitely been a while. Yeah, like I said, I don't take attendance, but man, it's nice to remember. Actually, to point out, this is also a mech game, so if I was playing Brigador, Phantom Brigade would have been at best a teaser. It might even have been still developed by Tetragon Works at that point. Tetragon Works was bought by Brace Yourself Games and folded into the indie Katamari. It's all good. I mean, you can say it, but I'd rather not just have to explain to everyone what happened. But yeah, no, I mean, especially because actually, this is worth saying. So sorry, I'm gonna be talking individually to Whiskey is Amazing for a little bit, but I think there's probably a couple lessons that you can get out of this for just general Twitch stuff that I think people can come away from. So, but yeah, like it was super fun, and actually one of the things that I really loved, in particular, I loved your reactions to that stuff, and I think to a certain extent, like. I know, like, the lack of chat interaction is something that sometimes comes up in that particular channel, like as in something that the broadcaster says they're really bothered by. And that was genuinely, like, that started off genuinely as my effort to try and keep chat going, and it worked brilliantly. Like, the fact that you got in on that and everyone else did was great. Like, number one, it made me laugh because, like, you guys are far more clever than I am in terms of the stuff that I can come up with. But the problem is that it's kind of clear near the end that it's I don't know, like it's sort of like well, you're fun to have around anyway, but in the end, if it's not appreciated, like, that's kind of where you can kind of cross the line into sort of like bullying. Like if the person who's maybe not necessarily the target, but let's say the host, like, isn't enjoying it and isn't into it, like, the decent thing to do is stop. The challenge, of course, is that if there isn't that indication and just instead it kind of turns into, someone being kind of resentful or somebody angry, and then they just kind of lash out. I mean, to a certain extent, no one owes me anything, but I also don't owe them a view. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, if I'm not wanted here, I can just move on to another thing. And so that was it. But, like, yeah, it's always a bit of a drawback, because one of the things that I think makes channels work are sort of the communities and the networks. You get used to seeing people. So in addition to being able to see your usual streamer, you're also used to seeing, some mods, or you're used to seeing, some regulars who come into a channel. And, people change, communities change, or you learn more about someone. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've shouted someone out, and then it kind of turns out afterwards that maybe they're not the person who I thought they were. And, I feel a little bit bad if people's time wound up being wasted. I notice, actually, there's plenty of people who just continue watching and they're happy with it, and I think that's good, because it's great if people can get connected with things that they're interested in. But you do the best that you can, you think the best that you can of other people, and you can harbor a big grudge for absolutely no reason and spend your time thinking about that, or you just try and find the better search mechanism, and in that case, where you can, you sort of build the you build the connections elsewhere, and that can either be in direct messages or just simply other channels that you enjoy. So actually, one channel I like talking about with Whiskey, and I see him in occasionally, is Outworld, who's the Australian Mortal Kombat speedrunner. So he's another good fellow. Anyways, this is a big, long introduction. I originally just wanted to talk about how impressive Phantom Brigade is, and I like the fact that this game looks cool, and it knows it looks cool. And there's always little touches to just make sure that you sort of realize that, or that you just get that nice little extra polish. And Phantom Clip says almost everyone that we watched on here came from like here, and that's a few. Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been on the other end of this as well, which is that I've also sort of seen the dissolution of some networks that I was involved in, and it definitely has an effect on the concurrent views. But like the thing is that it's the same as like a broadcaster, like streaming every single day for 16 hours, because they know that if they miss a day, not only do they lose subs, but those people go off to other channels that are willing to do that extra time. And it's just hard to imagine people, being able to do that for the long run, or being able to be happy doing it. And this is a hobby for me. I love being able to share like new game. I mean, this is the problem I have now, is I've actually too many games. And I'm really hoping and struggling. I'm hoping that I can, but also struggling to make sure that I can get through everything in a decent period of time. I'm sure also that other stream. I really should stop just referring to it as the other stream, but like, I also can't necessarily. I'm not in the business of saying who good and bad people are. I obviously liked watching that channel before, so but yeah, Outworld is it's interesting. I've seen him in a few different phases of his streaming period. Like, he was not a Mortal Kombat streamer when I first met him, and it's I think it's kind of cool how he has tried different things, and even if they haven't worked out, he's kind of pushed forward with it, and he's learned platforms. He's actually definitely somebody who I feel like I could learn something from in terms of. I don't want to say professionalism, because obviously I don't think he'd like that that title, but like, he's definitely somebody who's kind of figured out social media and Twitch better. But yeah, anyways, sorry. In terms of just being stacked up on games and things like that, I definitely like being able to share stuff that I enjoy. There's going to be one other thing. So we've had a bunch of new games recently, and I'm going to get back to all of them, but there's actually one more new one, which I want to share relatively soon. But it's Phantom Brigade tonight, and you've all been so patient with me. It's like 20 minutes, and we haven't gotten any gameplay yet, so... Tell me about that backlog. I believe you gifted me this War of Mine. Oh, Valken!
Good. This is my first time in stream. I hope everything goes smoothly, and we have a good stream.
Valken. You devil. And Olaf, oh my goodness. There's a bunch of you here. So, some of you may know Valken as Totally Not Valken. But of course, Totally Not Valken hasn't been, I haven't seen Totally Not Valken around. I hope they're okay. This Valken person, I've never seen. Oh, it's Totally Valken. How you doing? Thank you very much. And Olaf, it's always great to see you too. A couple of really big financial supporters of the stream, in addition to people who I like hanging around. I try not to be too... there is a real danger whenever you say, yes, financial supporters of the stream, everybody. And like, you hear that emphasis in somebody's voice, and you're like, okay, I know what's... I know what's going on here. But no, I mean, I think credit where credit is due. I like the fact that I'm able to sort of keep the lights on. YouTube's actually been doing a good job of sort of helping offset some of my my individual costs. It used to be I would make a profit on the stream, but like, YouTube's kind of helped supplement the stuff that was lost when the affiliate program came in. But I also really like acknowledging those people, because if anything, the fact that there was a big drop in revenues, I'm fine. Like, you like anything, you change to adapt to the circumstances. But it is worth highlighting, this stuff is free. You all can watch this for free. YouTube has got, or Twitch has gotten a little more annoying with ads, but as long as you can live with that, or you've got a good ad blocker, better than mine, you'll get through it. But I do want to acknowledge that support, because number one, it definitely keeps me going, and number two, it's completely unnecessary. It's completely voluntary, and it's something that makes me feel really good, in addition to being something that kind of helps benefit everyone. And I do know that there are a few people who actually really do, like, that kind of a donation would be somewhat of an impactful decision for them. It will mean the difference in terms of what they buy during groceries. And so the fact that there are people who do show that kind of support at a time when they can afford that, I think is really great. It's one of the things that I do like about the model, because in the end, I'd rather just have people watch my stuff, and for those who can show a little support to it, if they think it's worth it to do it. So thank you very much. Chalky, I'm going to DM you something. You don't have to answer right now, just whenever you get around to it. Oh, yeah, no worries, Whiskey. I probably went too far down a rabbit hole for you. I actually don't have my mobile in front of me, so I'll check out the DM after I'm done streaming today. But yeah, I probably went down a bigger rabbit hole than you'd intended. But I figured, because we were talking about like networks and sort of setups in Twitch, it seemed like a somewhat on topic conversation. But we need to liberate, so we are going to heal up my mechs. These may be a group that's kind of going to come and hurt us, so I think I'm actually going to run away from them for a little bit. Okay, it's a convoy. You know what? We can probably chase him down. We'll wait for the... Oh, Speedy. We'll wait for the heals and then... Go get him! Wait! Alright, into the fray. The base comes alive with the sound of boots crashing. I'm sorry. I forgot a really important detail. Spending all this time chatting with people and then... Won't take a second. Okay, cool. Into the fray. The base comes alive with the sound of boots crashing against the floor. In the hangar, an engineer shouts his instructions to the crew, and a pilot rushes in to get changed. You keep your eyes trained on the battle console, settling yourself with a deep breath. Okay, so because it's a reinforced convoy, I actually expect it to be a tough one. Yeah, so this is predicted as hard. They're 180 versus my 136. We may get the numbers up a little bit as we upgrade the mechs. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, System Talk, just chatting, I probably should do just chatting more than I actually do. But in this case, I like to think of it as a it's a very disorganized podcast with a video game in the back. So I actually, for those of you who are curious, so System Talk was originally the name for my blog, but I extended that to the concept of my digressions. The channel currency is System Stock. I'm not big enough to sort of have an official name for the community, but for those who do want to name the community, I have opted for System Flock. And the funny thing is that, like, I feel if I reuse System Talk multiple times, like, I don't know, it makes me feel like I don't have a lot of, it makes me feel like I don't have a lot of ideas. If I ever got big enough to have a stream team, I'd call it the System Block, BLOC. if you played more than talk, you might beat one of these games in under 2,600 hours logged on Steam. That wouldn't be as entertaining. I think Dota 2 might still be my most played game. Possibly Crusader Kings 2, but yeah, oddly enough, so I didn't want to talk about this too much because it's like this depends also on people's willingness to do so. I think it'll be fair to say none of you know that I've interviewed game developers before, right? Because so far as I can tell, that video is lost to time, and there is a copy of it on my hard drive, but it needs to like get edited, and like it's years old now, so. I would actually really like to do more interviews and discussions, and there are some people who I think would be good interview subjects, but there's also the problem where you don't know what people's agreements are. So like generally people aren't going to tell me stuff that's under NDA. Like Conquer Territory is a system. Yeah, well, I was opting for that to be the stream team name, but yeah, Conquer Territories also works. But yeah, I have a few people in mind, and again, like it's just a question of, you know, you want to be respectful of people's time. I definitely have a difficulty sort of like getting to the point in terms of talking. Now, you would actually probably notice during the interviews that I'm not like that. You know, it's kind of a circumstantial thing. So if I'm speaking with someone and the point is to talk with them, they get considerably more airtime, as it should be. But it's oddly enough, like it's something that really the opportunities didn't really stick around after that one instance. And so it's something I'd like to do again. It's something that I eventually am going to try and more actively pursue. But I always thought that if I'd have a podcast, because it would be more interview or discussion focused, like there would be another person on it, I would have called it Concurrent Views. So nobody steal that title. Anyways. Let's see if it marks. Yes, there are new goodies. So Sleipnir is kind of my star. It usually is the star, but we're going to take a quick second here. I never did explain, so particularly Phantom Klepto, but any of you who are wondering about Phantom Brigade, I know this one is actually quite popular on YouTube, so the fact it's been half an hour before I get to the gameplay, I'm really sorry about that. All I can say is you got a scrubber on YouTube, and I'm kind of talking like that's known and given. So the thing that's cool about Phantom... There's a lot of things that are cool about Phantom Brigade, but it's a turn-based tactics game. I'd actually say if you... Gameplay-wise, you can think of it sort of like Frozen Synapse, except that you have full knowledge of your opponent's actions. And so the other analogy that I would draw would be Into the Breach. And actually, I'd argue to a certain extent Into the Breach is maybe the better analogy. But because it's a mech game, there's also customization. And so in this case here, the way I usually do it is I just get all the customization done before I go into battle. And these little white marks are new parts that I found off the ground. Everything on my... this is essentially the origin of the stream title. Everything that I've got on my mechs is basically scrap that I picked up off the battlefield. So obviously, if you've played BattleTech, tabletop or video game, that's probably not an unfamiliar idea, but okay. So here's an example of something that I might consider as an alternative. So this Elbrus body, it's a medium, but it's got hollowed plating. Now, what's interesting about this is that the so we know why the power is lower, and that's because there's a charge core in there. As it is, now I don't want this mech to go lighter, so we'll just... I don't think there's a weight stat. It's got a power versus mass, but that doesn't quite tell me what I need to know. So if you take a look at this thing, it's got sort of 3 bars, so it's a heavy mech. What I will do here... I do want this thing to be tough. So I'm going to first of all make sure that I've got another overdrive core. What do I have lots of? Well, yeah, actually, let's just throw a charge core in it for comparison purposes. Okay, slight difference in power, but I think that's just because of the level. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch out this torso. Now the big question is, because I lost some mass off of that, it's still a heavy, I think? Cool. Yeah, so my tankier mech here is... my tankier mech here now has more integrity, but I didn't give up the... I didn't give up any of the other desirable features. Now, one thing I could consider doing with the parts, I could say it's like, well, is a charge core that bad? Like, what happens if I put the level 6 in it? Its speed goes down to 10, so that's actually pretty bad for me. But the thing is that this shotgun hasn't exactly been working wonders. So this is one of these situations where I might say, well, you know, maybe I do want to consider something a little... you know, consider this torso on a heavier, on something that's maybe a little more effective at doing damage. Yes. All right. So similar stories here. I can't remember. Okay, so it is just the fact that the heat dissipation isn't as good on these legs. We've got a right arm. Okay, so this is another good example where I can reduce the mass a little bit as well as the heat dissipation. Although with an improved heat sink, I think we're going to wind up giving back a bit of the speed. Not enough to worry about it, though. But I feel like we can do better than a heat sink. Well, not right now. Okay, I may change this out later, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Now, my Svalin is still a gray shield, but with an integrity of 550 and a barrier of 100, I suspect... Well, you know what? This is actually not a bad... This is definitely not a bad shield to put up, because while we give up 60 in integrity, we're gaining 186 in barrier. So those numbers actually work a little bit better. Jock be like, "Bwah!" Okay, so we'll do the same with the bull, and we will... in this case, it's more inheriting parts from other mechs. Yeah, so they seem to recall this one heat dissipation was a big deal. Now, I suspect the story with the heat dissipation is if I switch out the hydraulics, I'll get what I need. But I think right now I'm just gonna stick for any like strictly better improvements. It's tempting to put this Valen on because it is a stronger shield, but I give up some speed, and right now I've been actually getting a bit better with speed for my mechs. So once more with feeling, we'll take a quick look at the bodies on offer. I can't remember which one had heat problems, so I'm going to need to... I actually have my notepad in front of me, so I can... Oh, but do I have a pencil? Oh, are you kidding me? There it is. I'm actually going to write this down because I can never remember. Okay, don't need to change the pistol, and I'm pretty sure we've already... Yeah. So, I'll probably scrap most of that gear, but we'll save it for now. So, one last consideration. They added a briefing screen a few updates ago, so there's quite a few enemies here, and I rather suspect a number of them are going to be mechs. I think there's definitely going to be some tanks in there, but we're outnumbered and also outgunned. So, in this case, we actually just need to take the zones and run out. I suspect it's quite unlikely that we'd have to have half of our squad stay on those for 2 turns and then be able to run out. So I have a feeling we're going to fight our way through. And yeah, we are up against the reserve, so there shouldn't be anything too exotic in the squad. But let's see how it all goes. And eventually we'll start painting my mechs. But given the fact that it took me half an hour to... Is there a risk to losing a fight aside from time sunk? I mean, you can definitely get blown up. Or is this just a joke on the fact that it takes me a really long time to to get started? Command of the base is circled around to the perimeter. We're ready to pick the squad up if needed. The enemy will hold the site if you do so. Oh, all right. Well, Mr. Kenning's music tells me that it's they don't have high hopes. IFF response negative, treating as hostile, requesting immediate reinforcements. And the base is circled around again. They made a full 360 circuit. You see a robot and you want it painted black. I haven't listened to too much of the Beatles. 100 people now typing all capital letters in their chat. Okay, so yeah, it's really crowded here now. Oh yeah, no. So you're playing an insurgency, much like XCOM 2, but in this particular case, there does not seem to be a Doom project to force you to do certain to sort of do certain battles at certain times. You are able to sort of take on the enemy at your own pace. So yeah, as we talked about, it's not just tanks. There's actually quite a bit here, and they're all kind of barreling towards us. Now, this can potentially work to our advantage if we can. So if I can get like a machine gunner to just blast down the middle like this, that's ideal. But I do also need to acknowledge the reality that there's going to be a lot of fire. So actually, maybe the better thing is for me to just start with the Sleipnir. So there's 2 things that are kind of necessary for the Sleipnir here. So number 1, I'm moving them. But you'll notice that there's sort of this arc. Now that's because this mech has got a rocket launcher. Now it's a sidearm, so the compact launcher does 158 damage in a full volley. Not the sort of thing I want to build a whole turnaround, but I can avoid some damage and put myself into a better position. So in this case, we will sort of run up. Now we're technically running towards the rockets. Yeah, actually, maybe I don't want to run towards the rockets. But then I run into the next attack. Oh. I think we can still make something work out of this. So, first thing I'm going to do is basically just try and make the most of my turn by attacking whatever I can. So I think if we do 2, I'm probably going to wind up suffering heat problems. Nope. So what about the end of the move? Okay. So I'll admit I would have preferred a little bit more activity on the part of the Sleipnir, but it's one that I can sort of live with. Now there is a mech that's actually getting some shots on me, but that's with a shotgun, and that's out of their range, so I don't have that much to fear. So, next question: who else wants to murder me, and how do we stop them from being able to do that? Now, there's one argument here that says it might be good to just get rid of the little guys first, and then the other argument is we want to take out enemy mechs as soon as possible. Now, this one's a little trickier. For the simple reason that we're really close to the edge, and so I can move back, but that's not quite going to solve my problem. This unit that's moving up has got a... Okay, actually, so this is a no-brainer. What happens if I just dash it? Okay, so just slight adjustment to the plan. Walk a little bit, then dash. So the idea here is I'm not moving this mech back, so I'm not hitting the edge of the map, at which point I get trapped by these two tanks with good short-range weapons. But it's also anticipating the marksman. Right now it's moving, but it's going to want to take out some of my units. Probably going to take out my units at long range. So if I can have a unit focusing on them with a machine gun, that's going to sort of help me bring this thing over the edge. Now, I do have a big tanky unit for a reason, and so it's also worth it for me to just make some of this magic happen. I think this thing almost never runs out of almost never overheats, so maybe we just walk it. I'm running the risk of colliding with my own units, so this is a little bit like editing a video. You just sort of scrub over the zone. And this is a little foolish because I'm going right into the heart of the enemy territory, but in this case I'm actually going to start getting a shotgun blast right to the back of this unit. Hey Beepo, good to see you. Do you plan? Yes, sorry, I should have explained. So basically the way that this works, the analogy that I drew would be frozen synapse, and because of the synchronous you'll do your planning ahead of time, but the action takes place at the same time, and then into the breach is the better analogy because you have full knowledge of your enemy's actions. So in the world of this game, there's sort of I think it's like an artificial intelligence that's basically able to anticipate enemies' moves about 5 seconds into the future. And you'll actually notice there's this neat little effect. If you take a look at the battlefield, I'll move in close on the action. So as you go, so notice that it's really clear right now, and then you move in time, and as you start getting to the edge of the prediction, notice how there's this chromatic aberration that shows up, just especially around the edge. Or maybe it's not chromatic aberration. It could just be the oh god, I can't. Well, no, it looks like there's definitely in the bottom left there. I'm seeing the distortion of the colors, but yeah, it's a really nice little visual touch that they have as you get further out. Once you get to the unpredictable parts, you have this visual indicator of it. Obviously, I spent a lot of time in the higher levels, so it's a little hard to get a read on it. I'm doing a really good job of clobbering my own guys. But yeah, so essentially you take certain knowledge of what your enemy's intentions are, because of course the prediction isn't perfect in the sense that you are going to be affecting the battlefield. I haven't shown it yet, obviously, but like all of this, the terrain is destructible. Like you will see buildings collapse, you will see enemies attack one another. If I were to position myself in such a way that a unit that would be attacking me is shooting through one of its allies, it will attack that ally and it will damage it. So it's a really detailed and really well thought out game that definitely gives me something to think about. Okay, so if I just try walking forward, we run into the same problem. I want to try and get this unit into the fight reasonably quickly. And again, this part of the battlefield is really crowded, so... Okay. This is a long run on the machine gun. This actually feels like a... Like, it feels like a little bit of a waste, but not appallingly so. Oh, I haven't seen Radio Commander. That does seem kind of interesting. Sorry, I think I missed earlier chat. But yeah, so essentially you'll work out the you'll work out the first you'll work out your plan in 5-second intervals. I'm definitely taking on a stronger force than I should be right now. But I was talking about how it sort of felt the last few battles I've gone through haven't necessarily been that difficult. So this is one where I'm really going to have to earn my win. And one of the things I'm trying to do right now is disperse the group a bit while also doing damage. So the big reward of all of this effort that you put in is to actually watch your plans come to fruition. Now, the replay apparently is coming in the next update. So we only get one chance to watch this. But we are going to... Being a little too... Yeah, I really don't like saying, you know, I'm going to be beaten by everything, but I did kind of need to say, it's like, you know, I kind of feel like we've been having a pretty good run of it, and there have definitely been times this game's challenged me before, so I wanted to try and take on something tougher. So for all of the effort that we've put into the turn, now we get to see the magic happen, and I'm going to slow it down so you can see every little detail. First of all, we're going to see if everybody collides with each other. An elegant AI for a more civilized age. Spock is my favorite midichlorian. Okay. I guess we can speed it up until people start attacking. You do get to see the turn, so first thing that happened... We wanted to avoid damage from this unit, so it's going to start firing on this unit and hit the edge of the... Oh, I've never played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so my whole effort here with my... with the Sleipnir, complete waste of time. They wound up shooting the bridge. So we got some good hits on this shotgun tank. And we're definitely doing a good job of taking out the legs of this of the marksman. So there's definitely some good things that just happened here. So he took a little damage on the Sleipnir, but that's not surprising. This thing's going to be attacking me, but it's got a shotgun, so I sort of win this exchange. Okay, so there's a lot that happened here, but one of the most important things is what happened to this tank. So this tank lost its treads on the left-hand side, which means that it is stuck in position. If I want, there's two options I can get to sort of render this tank irrelevant to the battle. I can either move all of my units up like this, at which point its range is ineffective, or we can just sort of finish it off. But in this case, this tank is not a threat to me anymore. If we do, I never did like a full inventory of the enemy units. So we've got one unit with a marksman rifle, which it's going to be using. I need to keep an eye on that. 2 units with marksman rifles. Shotgun, 2 shotgunners, and a lot of tanks. A lot of tanks. Sorry, this is a fast-moving chat. I've been a little, it's a little faster than I'm used to. I'm just going to take a second here to sip some coffee because I think I get a little more chatty when I'm tired. So I'm going to take a second here and properly just wake up. Okay. So the first thing I want to worry about are the marksmen. So in this case, the marksman rifle is going to do 576 damage. And I've really built my squad around being sort of fast and effective. Oh, interesting. So in this case, the cure might be worse than the disease. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we're going to be firing the machine gun. Oh, yes, I was going to make a note on this stuff. So, it's the long, skinny machine gun that generates too much heat. So, you basically get 2 tracks of actions in this game. There are your actions that basically you can take with your hands. So there will also be melee weapons in this game later. But we've got a shield. And so what I'm going to do here, it's sort of a twofold strategy. This marksman rifle is powerful enough that it can actually blow up the shield. But it's also fair to say that at the level of damage, it can also destroy my torso and kill the pilot. So I'd rather lose a shield than lose a pilot. So essentially, the one thing I'd prefer to do would be to jump away. But I've already generated a lot of heat, and if I continue to overheat, I'm going to damage my mech, and I'll be in the same place where I was before, which is, you know, losing too much health. So what I'm going to do instead, once I'm done firing, I throw up the shield. Now the shield comes up before the bullet fires. The other thing that I'm doing is, as much as I can, I'm trying to move to the side. So again, the idea here, like the perfect attack, and again, I'm basing this on the idea that everything's sort of simulated. So let's try and make this as clear down the middle of the battlefield. So like we can see them shooting at me, right? Now I have to use my mouse to demonstrate. Like to use as a pointer, so I'm just gonna, this is why you should equip 2 shields. That would theoretically be a viable strategy in this game, because you can actually crash into stuff, but actually let's see if we can equip 2 shields. I'm not quite at the point where I do silly builds, but that doesn't mean I can't start. But yeah, so like the logic that I have behind this essentially is to say is like, take a look at what's now a purple line, blue because I'm pointing my shield at that enemy, red because they're pointing at me. And think about, would you want to walk towards the enemy knowing that they were firing at you? Well, no, because probably they're going to wind up damaging you. Okay, well, would you want to walk backward? Well, again, no, because for basically the same reason. Like, you're pretty likely to be the same kind of target. You know, you may be moving, but you're not really, like, you're not making it hard to attack. So it's like, what movement would you want to make? Well, ideally, you'd be perpendicular to where the attack's coming from. So you'll notice for my movement, like from relative to where I'm standing, I'm going about as close. I'm trying to cross that T as much as possible. Now, the second half to this, because my shield's going to be up for a certain period of time, I also want to see if I can get a cheeky little crash. Actually, you know what? This doesn't need to be so hard. I'll just throw my shield up again and crash into the mech. That's my guy. Oh, wow, they're coming right after me afterwards. Okay, that's another detail I need to keep in mind. So there's actually two efforts to hurt my mech here. So I'm still going to do the same trick. I'm actually going to run into this mech with my shield, but I'm going to then move around the side and make sure that I'm behind some cover for the next rifle shot. So I would have started another attack, but it's going to take too long, so. There's one Final Fantasy that made it possible? That's silly. I gotta see it now, though. Oh, I've been running into a weird thing. So YouTube has not got that great of a support system, I've noticed. There is somebody who is now putting content IDs. So basically they're monetizing my Morrowind videos, and the money's going to them because they did a remix that used Morrowind music, and they're claiming that I'm using that remix. So the way that YouTube does their copyright protection is that if you want to dispute that claim, you have to claim that you own the underlying rights. And I don't own the underlying rights. I did not compose the soundtrack to Morrowind. But the guy who did this remix sure as hell doesn't either. And I've noticed, I have a feeling that someone has figured this out, because I've noticed very slowly over time more and more videos are getting flagged like this. Like, again, they've just taken standard, like, travel music from Morrowind. But my suspicion is because people aren't challenging it, because of course they also do not own the rights to the Morrowind music. Effectively, this is a way that they're able to take a bunch of unmonetized videos and monetize it for themselves. I think it is a really, really scummy way of doing things. But, you know, it's kind of like I said to the support person. I said, you know, thank you for the time on your response, but like, this doesn't really answer the question as stated. The question as stated is, how do I dispute when I do not own the underlying rights, but neither does the person making the claim? I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, the thing that bugs me is when I run ads on stuff. Like, nobody likes ads. I get that, and like I've been pretty clear. You know, if you have an ad blocker, I don't feel like I'm being robbed or anything like that. But I've never monetized the Morrowind videos for that very reason. I don't own them. I don't, you know, I understand that there is some fairly strict enforcement of the rights. I think that's because Jeremy Soule owns some of the music, to be honest. But, you know, I'm taking all this care to make sure that I'm doing stuff properly, and then some guy you know, who uses Morrowind without, presumably without permission. Like when I took a look at the information on that remix, I don't see any credit to the Bethesda people. You know, essentially they're able to kind of claim money for my Morrowind videos. And I'm like, well, look, you know, if anybody's going to make money off of this thing, I want it to be me. So, yeah, no, it's definitely an automated process. So I get them all the time. Like I've gotten so many for Battlefield, like Battlefield cutscenes, basically claiming that these other people have copied my YouTube video because, you know, I don't have a camera on. So all those videos that will show you the Battlefield cutscenes, I get those notices all the time. The difference is that I don't go and claim them. You know, like I know full well that I'm not the one who did, you know, who made that. But you know, now I realize that unless it's somebody sufficiently motivated, you know, in principle, I could actually put a bunch of content ID strikes, or not strikes, but like content ID claims on these videos. And I mean, they've got easily 10 times as many views as I'll get on an average video. So, well, I've more than 10 times. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the stuff that's like specifically done for YouTube and actually does somewhat okay. So like, in principle, I could actually do a fairly decent trade before somebody figures it out and then crushes me. But yeah, it's frustrating because like it doesn't have to be that way. It's a specific decision that YouTube has made in terms of how they do copyright stuff, and I'm certainly not the first person to complain about YouTube copyright. Like, you know, I can get a grip, but it's just such a shame that it's done in this really ham-fisted way, and it's very specifically worded in such a way that unless you're the rights holder, they don't want to hear from you. If I'm going to keep the shield up, there's no point in me trying to walk away for protection. Yes, there is actually, because yeah, sorry, I want to go around the edge just so they can get attacked by their own people. Yeah, I mean, YouTube's really big, and we were talking about network effects before, so it's gonna take. I mean, there are people who've tried, but you know, the thing is that if somebody does find a better way of handling this stuff, and essentially they make it more attractive for creators, then the exit from YouTube is going to be very quick, because it's certainly not the first time that people have expressed some pretty clear issues with the way things are going. So yeah, this mech is actually in quite a bit of danger. So my best option here, honestly, is just to try and put more hurt on. Oh, you know, I can't even do that because it's okay. Sidearm time. So I need to find another target for my machine gun. I guess I could make it a tank. Got taken down for a copyright claim saying that it was someone else's, and they were like, well, that's definitely us, but all right. Yeah, it's like, I get it. Like, obviously, when you build a big platform like that, you want to have a very large, you know, like the whole thing that makes this attractive is that you can have a bunch of people put their stuff up, and a lot of it's going to suck, like, and basically be like mine, which is, obviously I could be a little more focused on the game, and I could be a little more kind of focused and coherent in my thoughts. But then there's going to be some people who like really are catching on to something, and this could be anything from like a musician starting a new career, starting out on YouTube or something like that, to somebody who's a very good educator and is able to sort of share their knowledge in a way that really connects with with students. There's a lot of different ways that this can be good. So I completely understand that you need to create a system which can accommodate that sort of volume. But I don't think it's controversial to say that YouTube has definitely taken a very creator-unfriendly perspective on copyright. Generally, my ability to enforce my rights is quite small. If anything, they actually, like, YouTube kind of uses these dark patterns to say, like, oh, allow people to sample your content by default, because of course the React videos, this whole genre there now. Like, I don't want that enabled by default. I want to be able to opt in to people sampling my content. I'd probably even be okay with it. But the fact that I wasn't asked and that they just kind of imposed that on my videos pretty much closed me off from from wanting to do that. But then it kind of comes down to this case where I feel like I'm really making an effort to try and honor not just the letter, but the spirit of copyright regarding a series that I'm actually pretty proud of. Like, keep in mind, I never played an Elder Scrolls game except for a few minutes of Skyrim that I didn't like that much. I've now gone from Arena to the end of Oblivion doing this dumb dark elf voice the whole time. And it's the background music of the game that's being monetized. Like, again, because I know there's rights difficulty around the soundtrack, and I'm still trying to capture the original experience of playing the game. I didn't disable the soundtrack, but in the end now, having dedicated over a year to doing that, there's someone who's able to make money off of it in a way that I've never been able to, and that's definitely really really tough. Oh, thanks, Beepo. Yeah, it's in a playlist on my YouTube channel. Anyways, I need to stop complaining about stuff. I've been havering a bit to just see how it turns out. I think the fate of this mech is probably the most important to me, so we are going to watch it in super slow motion again. So the attack should be coming in from this side. Okay, that hit the shield. And then the next one's going to be coming from this unit. Yeah, all bounces off the terrain, so we're good. Another crash, which is good, especially because this is on an autocannon. It's going to be able to protect the objective, but we're definitely not playing for the objectives right now. So now we get to see this guy crash into a tank. So that definitely took a lot out of that shield. Notice the detail, by the way. Oh. It's not really doing that much, is it? Great. So all those tanks are basically immobile now. So there's a big missile coming to inconvenience me. Oh. No, we're fine. So keep in mind, this unit's still attacking me. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start with a dash. And this is largely a question of trying to avoid the missile. The next question is anybody actually going to try and attack me here? And it seems like the answer is no. So I'm then going to take whatever opportunity I can to make trouble for the enemy. This is a tough call because they're like right at the edge, but I also get a bunch of like behind shots on the shotgunner. I guess the alternative is the marksman over here. They don't really get into range in time though. Yeah, so it's not ideal, but I'm not that worried about the missile launcher, to be honest, because the first attack made a big hole in the bridge here. Second one I'm going to be dodging. So they're a threat, but the question is whether or not they're like a major threat. The biggest threats to me right now are actually the marksman units. And it looks like they're coming after the shotgunner. So there are some things like, so the big question is, do I really need to fear the marksman rifle at close range like this? I'm inclined to say no, but I am going to try and be a little clever in how I approach this. So essentially, I'm going to keep hammering away at this unit with my shotgun. Now that is going to mean that I wind up taking some damage potentially, so I'm going to need somebody to kind of hand off and deal with this unit as they come in. Is this really my lance? This can't be my lance. Okay, I feel like the game has misinformed me in terms of this mech's weight then, because it definitely used to be a heavy. That actually definitely messes with me a bit. Okay, so here's the logic of the turn. Shields up. I'm basically going straight into the marksman's face, and I'm just hoping that the close range is enough to neutralize its attack. I'm then moving behind the marksman so that this shotgunner, like when it gets into sort of the critical zone, its own shotgunner damages its own unit. Last step that I do is I sort of move around the edge, and then we're going to just work on the tank. And this is more to support the machine gunner, because I think for the machine gunner, I'm probably just going to keep them in position and fire at anything that's kind of causing trouble to my guys. Although I don't have the heat to go any further. I might be able to get away with this, but the angles are all wrong. You know what? I think I should be willing to take a little extra heat here. Yeah, so we either hit the tank or we hit the unit in front of the tank. Now, I've got a free Sleipnir, so I could try and take the objective, but I kind of need to reconsider. I need to reconsider what the most important thing I can be doing right now is. So we're just going to run back into the battlefield. Oh, actually, it looks like we're kind of limited to just running back. So there's still stuff I can do. So you can get a couple pot shots on the, you know, on whatever target presents itself. And essentially, where I can, I just want to try and do damage where possible. Okay. So let's see how this goes. We will try and watch the rocket dodge, but I really want to see how this turns out with the marksman unit. So you can see the missile in the background. $72 damage, not that bad. Mind you, I'm not doing that much damage to it either, so it's all a wash. So this is its ally coming in. So again, notice this unit's taking a lot of damage, but it's spread around, so I don't have to worry as much. Great, this guy just lost his most important weapon. I didn't realize they were attacking him again. This actually could turn really bad soon. Okay, I got a bit lucky there. So I never got the pleasure of playing Mech Assault, but I believe that is an official BattleTech game, and it takes place in a period which I never really knew about in the BattleTech universe, the Jihad with World of Blake. So it's one I'd really like to try. All right, the drone is a rough location of the crate, but we're going to need another ping to ensure it gets picked up, and something else that I couldn't read in time. Okay, so perhaps unsurprisingly, they are going to want to beat the crap out of me for shooting them. Now I can try and make life a little easier for myself by just moving that much further out of range. I think if I try another attack, yeah, I get a little too hot, so the question is there a mech in the area? Okay, so one really nice detail here is that not as many people are as focused on this unit, and the one that is ready to attack it is the old marksman, which doesn't have an SMG anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to track this shotgunner rocket launcher. And part of the goal here is just to try, like, if I can take out its legs as quickly as possible, that's best for me. The one complication is I don't necessarily want to attack it in the back. I mean, I'm gonna have to eventually. What I'm trying to avoid doing, though, is having a friendly fire incident with my Sleipnir. I don't necessarily want to get closer to the stuff that's attacking me, but I can kind of do my part. I wonder if I can get one more. Yeah, so these aren't very efficient attacks, but neither are the ones that my the enemy is doing, so it sort of balances out that way. Okay, now this unit's still got a marksman rifle to cause me misery, so for this particular unit, stepping back is probably the best. Oh, but I still get hit. So if I move forward, same story. Okay, well, in this case, I just kind of gotta hope. Right, and the shotgunner's still on its way, so... The time it takes me to get a shot off is the real problem here. So I don't mind heading back like this. Okay, well, the easy answer is just shields up for the whole run. And then we have our revenge with our machine gun. Now, this unit might be able to get a sneaky attack off, but the Sleipnir might take it out too. So, the other thing that I want to do is, right now, this is a question of sort of neutralizing the greatest dangers. So there's really no chance that I'm going to take out its primary weapon here, but I can do my best to make that happen. So we need to cool down a little bit. So notice here, right? Remember we were talking about how I wanted to dodge a shot? This is basically a straight line, and the unit's moving into my ideal, sort of ideal attack zone. So I'd actually be tempted to do a second attack, except that I know this unit generates a lot of heat. So this one I'm actually going to view in real time. That's probably a mistake, but I really want to see how this unit handles everything. Brilliant. The shield's still standing. Oh, nope. She lost the shield. But, as anticipated, we were able to take out the... We're able to take out the legs. And, more importantly, we've got one of my favorite tracks. So, we've got one objective. We're actually going to move in and take the second as well. So it's a little tough here. I am going to pay for losing the shield in... I'm going to pay for losing the shield when it comes time to get the scrap. But we've clearly done some... We've done some good work here. So this is something of a questionable choice here, but I do actually have a very specific plan. Okay, so they fire the missiles. We walk a little bit to cool down. I'll actually try and cut that walk in half, and then we dash to dodge the incoming. And then basically I want to move my unit in such a way that it's able to sort of provide some more cover for my people. Oh, you didn't realize that Mech Assault... Yeah, so Mech Assault, Mech Warrior 1 through 5. So Battletech, to give you an idea of how long Battletech has been part of PC gaming, I believe one of Westwood Studios, like of the Command and Conquer fame, I believe one of their earliest games was called Crescent Hawk's Inception, which took place in the Battletech universe. So it's definitely a very familiar setting for PC gaming. That's good. I mean, like MechWarrior is just an interesting setting overall. They, I don't know that much about this person, but I know the kind of the head of FASA, Jordan Weisman, seems to be a pretty impressive entrepreneur. Like first of all, BattleTech is, countless books and, like a TV series and virtual reality centers and like you name it, there's some kind of BattleTech sort of branded activity. But like even after stuff like even stuff like after leaving FASA and stuff like that, like he made 42 Entertainment, that was one of the first like ARG companies. So like I think he did stuff for Halo and like a 9 Inch Nails album. And then, he did Harebrained Scheme. Like he did a couple of tabletop companies, but then like he went to do Harebrained Schemes, which made Shadowrun Returns and the turn-based BattleTech game. So like definitely like, I don't know, there's just something really, to me, like, I'm not going to rebrand the channel to like discussions of the Sigma male grind set, right? But I think there is something very impressive with somebody who has got this consistent track record of like building companies. Now, obviously, as you get experience with it, you develop contacts, you're able to sort of take the lessons learned. And so there's some skill involved, but like, think of, I don't really like wading into kind of controversial topics like this, but like think of somebody like Randy Pitchford, right? Like this is a guy who I would have really big issues dealing with, because there's like every indication that if there's a corner to cut or a or a deal to go wrong. Like if this is the sort of person who, if I were to have some sort of business dealing with them and it didn't turn out, the only thing I could really say to myself is like, well, what did you think was going to happen? Right. And all due respect, right? Like, Gearbox seems to have gone from making like Half-Life mods to, an attractive acquisition target. They've made, Borderlands. They've bought the homeworld rights. Like certainly Gearbox, and I mean the publishing arm, like they, Risk of Rain 2. Like obviously they're capable. But like the thing is that there's always that wonder is like, well, what if, it just so happened they were in the right place at the right time, right? Like, could you imagine a figure like Randy Pitchford going out and making a second company and it being as successful? Or does he kind of know that he's got a good thing going and he will not leave Gearbox until he is like forced out? And then you can compare that to something like the guys at Respawn. I think it's Jason West and Vince Zampella. So like they were treated incredibly poorly by Activision Blizzard. And like these are guys who basically like kind of made modern warfare. You predicted a gas station so far in Conan Exile and doubling the main traffic artery of your province. What? But yeah, like, like the obviously the people who've like kind of reborn the first person shooter, that's a pretty impressive accomplishment on its own. But after being just treated in the worst possible way by by Activision Blizzard, they turned around and founded Respawn, and Titanfall 2, and Apex Legends on top of the Star Wars games now. Jedi Fallen Order, the new one that was just announced, which Brian on the Rocks is working on. And then there's that Medal of Honor game where they're now an Oscar-winning studio because they did that documentary with it as well. Like, that sort of thing, I understand that there's sometimes luck and that sometimes someone's background allows them to do that, but there's definitely something very impressive about someone who's able to bring about projects like that. Like, obviously, starting a business does not strike me as a very easy undertaking, and maybe it's just because it's not something that I understand very well. It's something that maybe I have more of a sort of a it's more of an intellectual understanding of it as opposed to something that I really have a tangible idea on how to do myself. That makes me kind of makes me sort of stand up and pay attention when I see that sort of stuff. But I don't know, I just sort of, I figure looking at again, a figure like Jordan Wiseman, who seems to sort of be making these good sort of tabletop products at a time when it's not necessarily assured that anything but D&D is going to be like super successful. I'm interested, and I kind of think seeing that track record across different types of project is one of these things where I'm like, I wonder what it takes, or I wonder what it exactly it is that made him go and sort of produce a series of quite successful companies with somewhat forward-looking approaches, as opposed to sort of like resting on his laurels and being sort of the BattleTech guy forever. Yeah, actually, I still need to play Jedi Fallen Order. I don't tell Brian, but I can't tell you why, but I had a feeling that he was going to be working on the Star Wars game before it was like announced. It was just based on, I knew he was learning a game tool, and I was like, Apex doesn't use that, but I have a feeling I know what project would use that. And then sure enough, like I'm sure it was not a surprise to people that there would be some sort of Star Wars follow-up through Respawn, but yeah, I was very happy for him because he worked on Battlefront 2, so it's not the first time he's worked on a Star Wars game. But I'm hoping this is a chance for him to work on a Star Wars game that maybe gets the love and attention that it deserves, because obviously Battlefront 2 took a really long time to get past that really negative first reaction. Although the revealed preferences of the player base were that people, for the most part, really liked the game. And I wonder if I can... Oh, I messed it up. Okay, so I can't do two in a row. All right, well, we'll run it out and we'll just dodge next turn. But yeah, like obviously the indicator that that players actually liked that game. There were indicators earlier than maybe the discourse was communicating. Yeah, it's a tough call. I mean, it's certainly, I think that the lesson of Battlefront 2 is that they did listen. Like all the stuff that people... So one thing I notice about Battlefront 2 is that the things that people like to complain about with Battlefront 2 aren't actually in the game anymore. And they were removed relatively early in the life cycle. Now, again, you can ask the question, well, did they need to put that in there in the first place? And, like I'm not gonna pretend that I know what it takes to be able to, to make those kinds of calls. Like, obviously, there's a set of decisions that they made. Not all of them were ones that were right for the game, as indicated by the reaction. But ultimately, those aren't present inside the game anymore. And they were removed relatively early on in the process. But there's also a long period of sort of rebuilding that trust with the community. And to a certain extent, EA, for some reason, seems to be unduly focused on. So people are really quick to blame it, but maybe don't always give it the credit when it turns around. So the funny thing is that most of the things that I'll hear about when people complain about a game like Battlefront, it's true for the early version of the game, but not true for the current iteration. And it makes it difficult to discuss, right? Because like I can't dispute your experience, right, of like buying it first and returning it. Like, obviously, that tells me everything I need to know about how much you liked Battlefront, which was not at all. But as you say here, caught a good deal on digital last year, and you have to say the way they changed things was impressive, and you overcame a lot. Yeah, exactly. So, and yeah, I mean, definitely, as you say, you blame the EA overlords, and this is the thing, like, EA is the same company that also, did all those changes, and they're the company that gave Respawn the freedom to pursue the stuff that they were interested in. And as a result, we got Apex Legends and Jedi Fallen Order, and the whole EA Originals program. So it's always a tough one, right? Like, it's I don't think people should be free of criticism because then they can't improve. But in this particular case here, I think the one lesson here is that gamers could maybe stand to, and again, I'm speaking in a very, very broad sense, but it'd be nice if maybe they'd hold less of a grudge. Because I still hear from people like, I'm never gonna buy No Man's Sky, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's your money. Like, I can't tell you how to spend it, but like, I think the consensus is that game is pretty good. And obviously the stuff that people were disappointed for not being in it on launch, all that stuff is in there now. So it's like, do you really want to tell a developer after putting years of effort into a passion project that, it doesn't matter what they do, you're never going to buy something from them? That doesn't quite seem to be the right incentive structure. Yep, definitely. And I think one thing that didn't help was that I suspect they went a little more aggressive with that system in the beta, and so when the finished version came out, like, people already had a sour taste in their mouths about it. Because I do think there's a way of making live service work. I think there are actually some games that do make the live service component work very well. I think the evidence for that would be, we are going to start the turn. I just want to make sure that I'm not having any embarrassing collisions, because we're at a point where we could start losing some pilots if the battle runs away with us. I remember the reaction to Star Wars Squadrons was people were saying the game was abandoned because there wasn't a live service component. And that's EA of all people, right? So, who would have imagined a few years after Battlefront 2 that people, that the first sort of Star Wars flight simulator we've gotten in ages, the first complaint is that it doesn't have live service. Yeah, well, there's different ways of approaching it for sure. Like, I'm not going to suggest that all of these systems are made equally, but I also don't have the design chops to know like what it takes to make a good live service like that. Plus, you all get to hear like the action-packed part of this song. So let's try and think. I think probably the main action's going to be sort of in the center here. So. See the drone coming in. So this was always a bit of a flyer. This didn't really accomplish much. Yeah, this shotgun's not really delivering everything that I need. I think we're almost... Oh no, we still have some action going on. Okay, so it's pretty clear what the priority for one of these mechs is. But yeah, I'm sure you can all see why I really like that song. It's definitely one that it gets you in the right spirit. Your attention span is why these games are not for you to do anything but watch. This game's great. Like, I think their choice of composer is really, really good. Like, if you actually, it's been a while since I've shouted this out, so I'll take a second here and put this up. So this is the Bandcamp for the composer of this game. So there's some Phantom Brigade on it, but you'll notice that a lot of the it definitely feels like a lot of his inspirations are definitely very sort of cinematic, and so on top of the fact that Phantom Brigade is this very beautiful and very stylish, very cinematic game, the music really brings that extra, it just kind of brings out that extra level. And in this case here, I can definitely remember this particular track during some really intense moments with the missiles, and just sort of pulling off these 1 in a million escapes is definitely, it definitely makes it very memorable for me. Probably work with ebb and flow. First wave, engage, but disengage, pull the enemy into the chase. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can't necessarily control who attacks you, so that I haven't always been able to pull that off effectively. But there's especially for the sort of base defense kind of, or the ones where the enemy's sort of defending from sort of a hardened position. That's definitely a strategy that's very viable. In this case, I've kind of got the upper. I mean, there's a couple things so this this tank I need to clean up at some point, and it is going to prevent me from going to this part of the map. I think, yeah, this mech, so this tank, because I didn't deal with it, I do actually have some problems now. I'm going to have to sort of figure a way to deal with that as well. Particularly because for this unit, I would ideally like it to just sort of be doing its attack and focusing on that rather than you know, worrying about who else is trying to come after them. I think in this case I'll move. Oh, hang on. Did I forget about a missile? I'm trying to remember where that came from. Might be too late, but... Okay, I'm actually going to walk it, and then I will dash to the high ground. So the hope here is that the tank gets a little bit of friendly fire on their ally. Okay. So I'd love the Sleipnir to do some attacks, but I just don't see... Well, I mean, I could do like a 1 in a million. Like, basically, as long as I'm not really overheating at the end of the turn, like, it doesn't hurt to... It doesn't hurt to, like, see if I get lucky, but... So yeah, Sleipnir is going to stay put and capture something. This unit needs to defend itself. Okay, well, I guess that's a turn spoken for. So, have I played Divinity 2? Only a little bit. I need to finish the original first. And I actually played the original on the Tactician mode, which is very difficult. And of course, we were talking about our long... long playlists. All right, let's watch the magic. I think I forgot about the... Yeah, I forgot about this second group, so I think there's going to be problems. I think this unit's going to get hit by all these missiles. Oh yeah, this is gonna sting. We are getting our own back on the concussive damage on this guy, though. Oh yeah, this thing's toast. I wouldn't be surprised if they ejected. Okay, yeah, so this mech's ejecting. This one's still trying to make things work with our handgun. I'm going to ignore the tanks for as long as I can. And we're really close to being able to take out this marksman, so... First and most important step is the Sleipnir can join the fight again, so... We'll run ahead. Oh yeah, hang on. I gotta remember where the enemy's gonna be, not where I... So one of the things I want to try and do is intercept this unit before they're able to get their attack in. I actually find it a little weird that the percentages are so low. But yeah, so we get 3 good shots with my Sleipnir. My shotgunner's still going concern, so I need to kind of finesse the moves a little bit, because I don't necessarily want to take out the unit that's surrendering. It'll be good for scrap if I can avoid that. It's a tough call, because like that does come at the risk of damaging one of my allies. This unit isn't fast enough to... Okay, so here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to get myself into position, wait till I've cleared the... yeah. Okay. This is my good old-fashioned machine gunner. Okay, so there's already some missiles coming after me in this case, so probably the smartest thing to do is just do the dashes. Can't do 2 in a row. Actually, in this case, I think probably I'll just... I hate the fact that I spent 2 rounds trying to protect this unit, but as long as it keeps the enemy occupied, there are worse fates. Okay, so they're going to try and mess with this unit, so maybe I can get by with... Okay, new approach. I'm just going to clear out the riffraff. We'll get rid of the tank. You miss any details? Okay, so I think it's just paratanks that are immobile that we need to deal with here. So we'll wait on this. Well, we'll move into position. Okay, so this unit's still a going concern. So. We can do better. So this unit will take out this tank, and then I'll have a machine gun to sort of reinforce the... Wow! They are determined. Okay, well, it's not going to help my scrap prospects, but... Alright, So that was a very long encounter, but like these are some of the ones I really like. Like these are definitely ones where I feel quite challenged, and like it's just one of these ones where I'm like, yeah, this is why I play Phantom Brigade. So we got 170, and the biggest reason for this is the all of the units that we took out. So this is the stuff that we got as part of the mission. Now this is definitely telling me that I need to take more. I definitely need to take on more convoys because we can build a lot of really cool stuff here. 150 battery. Now it says resource, so I don't believe that. Oh no, it is scrap. Okay. And we get 2 blades, so the Clipper and the MBS3. So I do want to get my shield back for the bull, so that's 25 scrap already spoken for, and as usual we'll take anything that's colored and intact. All right, so now I need to make some decisions. Yeah, so if I want to take everything that's colored, I'm in for disappointments. So maybe I'm going to scrap the heavy stuff that I find. Maybe we'll start by scrapping the heavy stuff that I find that isn't... Ooh, I still got to give up 70, all right. I kind of want all of it, though. So I gotta keep that shotgun because I'm really not impressed with my existing shotgun. We're getting closer. Yeah, look, I don't feel good about it, but I think that's as close as I'm gonna get it. Okay, so I've got a farm, we've got a patrol, we've got a camp. Or we could just straight up contest the province. Okay, actually I think I'm gonna do that. So here's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna overdrive, we're actually gonna stealth out of the detection zones. So we'll heal up. Nope. Fearland, enemies started recapturing site Monument 72. Oh. We're at 100%, so let's get our units ready to go. Actually, sorry, one thing I should work on is improvements. Okay, so I like capacitors. In this case, it's going to cost me 5 uncommon components, which I have, and 300 supplies, so yep. So I was thinking of using the workshop to build another mech body, but I'm gonna go for power. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I mean, so I think there's a really, so again, like, please keep in mind, like anybody who talks about game, okay, so anybody who's not a game designer who talks about games online, I don't know anything. Well, no, I can just end it at that. I don't know anything, right? And I think But it seems to me that there's a very clear pattern of this in this game, which is all about... Ooh. I'm not... We'll see what... we'll see what this does, but... like it feels to me that the way that this game works is that you have this... Like, it's the two phases, right? So there's the phase where you solve the puzzle of the turn. So you're presented with a series of enemies, you're presented with certain obstacles and objectives, and you spend your time thinking about how you're going to go about doing that. And then the second half to it is that, like, so... Like, think about... I'm assuming most of you have probably played chess at some point. And there are the moves that you make in chess where you sort of know you're building towards something. I'm not very good at chess, so I think a lot of my moves are more about, like, maintaining until I get inspired. And that, you know, that's why I lose. Because I can... Like, I think the thing, I've heard this a couple of times, they say is like, you seem like you're very good. Like, I was really struggling with some of these situations. Say, yeah, it's like, I kind of know how to respond to an individual moment. Maybe this is why I actually like Phantom Brigade. Like, on a given chess position, I seem to do okay for dealing with the immediate concerns. But I'm very poor at implementing a long-term strategy to capture the king, which is, of course, the point of chess. A great captain, horrible general. You played rock, paper, shotgun king. Yeah. But, which is weird, because, like, if you look at how I play other games, like... you know, for like 4X and things like that, I tend to actually overemphasize the long-term strategic needs, and sometimes will get caught flat-footed on the tactical side. But what's really great about Phantom Brigade is that you have that satisfaction of, like, figuring it out, right? But then there's those chess turns where it's like, you know, you did something really impressive. Like, you did this cool sacrifice, or, you know, you found this just absolutely diabolical trap. And the great satisfaction of that can sometimes be just seeing it play out. Like, you kind of already know, you kind of already know your, what's going to happen, and it's just a matter of sort of seeing it all play out. And then, of course, there's going to be those ones where it's like, oh, actually, they just did something I wasn't expecting. Oh, okay, now it's getting really interesting, and, you know, the back and forth like that. But I think what Phantom Brigade does very well is making sure that that payoff side of the equation is remarkably satisfying. So the game is incredibly enjoyable as far as, you know, just playing the game. Like I said, I mean, the reason why I like comparing it to Into the Breach is wonderful, right? Into the Breach is a lot of fun for figuring out how you are going to get yourself out of the mess that you worked in. You can definitely do turns in such a way that you have a better time in the subsequent turn than... you know, than if you, you know, you kind of just focus on your immediate goals. But what's really satisfying about Phantom Brigade is that once you hit that play button, whether you do it in slow motion or whether you do it in real time, there is this great experience of just seeing all of your decisions play out in this really cool mech, like, movie that you control. Well, I mean, you don't control it in the individual moment, but you get to watch all of your plans actually come into motion in one of the most, like, sort of big, bombastic, like, really cool scenarios. And again, remember, this is an independent game. This is developed and published by a company in Vancouver, a relatively small company, like big, probably big by indie standards, but a relatively small company by pretty much the standards of the games we've been talking about. So I think, to me, that's I think that's one of the reasons why this works. So like when you say something like, this game's really good at saying is like, okay, player's done thing, blast some action music again. Like I think that is definitely intentional on the part of the game. I think the game is very much about, taking some time to work out the strategy and then getting the remarkable satisfaction of seeing the payoff. And that's why I like making the analogy to Frozen Synapse, because of course part of the Frozen Synapse satisfaction is you don't know how the turn is gonna work out. You don't necessarily see what the enemy is doing. And so part of it is just sort of being on pins and needles to see whether or not you guessed correctly. In the case of Phantom Brigade, it doesn't necessarily have that advantage. You more or less know what's going to happen. Not like perfect knowledge, but there shouldn't be too many surprises in a Phantom Brigade turn. But despite the fact that you have perfect knowledge of what's about to happen, this game still is very surprising and delightful to see. Thank you very much. Yeah, no worries. I'm the one who's responsible for choosing such a loud subscription notification. But yeah, I think the fact that you have full knowledge of what's going to happen that turn, and the fact that it's still really fun to watch, is I think a testament to the craft behind this game. For those of you who do not know the Eyes of Sin, so first of all, thank you very much, Olaf, for keeping us in happy happy subs. For those of you who do not know the Eyes of Sin, they are responsible for these lovely emotes that you see on stream. Every once in a while they will stream. They haven't streamed recently, but those are the ones that are always good to shout out, because you don't necessarily know, you can't necessarily say, like, I don't know. I don't have an easy schedule to say, yes, well, just stop by and you'll see whether or not it's worth it. Obviously, you have to you have to follow, and then one day they'll be online and you'll feel very happy. Eyes of Sin's the reason I did Hollow Knight, and I will be returning to it. But on top of that, there's a couple of links. Actually, sorry, I should also bring up the Twitter. So Eyes of Sin is an artist, does it professionally. And for those of you who would like to support Eyes of Sin and see some of their work, you can check out that coffee page. I think the coffees start at $5, but obviously please do not feel obligated to support. It's just I like to recommend that, because certainly they've brought a lot of delight to my own channel as far as the emotes. My favorite is in fact one that more or less they did on their own without any real prompting beyond I wanted my own version of a kappa. I've also included that Tumblr account because I think the Tumblr has got some fun stuff in there as well that isn't yet on the coffee. And finally, if you are looking to commission Eyes of Sin, or if you know somebody who is looking for emotes or that, I do my best to try and let people know. But I also tend to find a lot of people are a bit set in terms of who their providers are. But I don't know. Like I do want to do my best to sort of get the word out there. I do actually have some more emote slots, so it is my intention to do more. I know who I'm asking. By the way, I just really like this animated crab, so I will share that specific tweet. But I also wanted just to take the moment here. It's like again, I got to be clear, right? Everybody has something that they want to support. Everybody's got a cause. Everybody's got a charity that they're running for, and none of this is necessarily bad, right? I think it's actually very important that people take time to support things other than themselves. I'm still quite concerned about Ukraine, but I also kind of learned the lesson that, like, it's not something for stream, apparently. So I've sort of moved that to sort of my own private concerns. And obviously, just because a broadcaster is interested in something doesn't necessarily mean that you kind of have to have that sort of forced down your throat each time. So, everybody's got, like, there's always going to be more needs than there is, a set of resources to go around. But with that in mind, I do know that Eyes of Sin makes a living doing this. And as far as I can, I at least want to try and get the word out in terms of what it means to me and why I would like to see this stuff continue to be supported. So for those of you who have the means and the interest, Eyes of Sin is somebody who will work for your hard-earned dollars and has also done work for your hard-earned dollars. And I hope that you will at least see the stuff that gives me a lot of joy. And then some of you, if you are inclined and have the means to do so, I would hope maybe you'd consider supporting them. But one way or another, some of those donations that you give and the subs that you do in that will be going towards commissioning some more emotes when they become available, and we'll work around it. It wasn't too bad, Beepo. I want to be very careful about how I say this. The person who said this doesn't come around here anymore, so I don't mind saying this one particular thing, but at the onset of the war, I tried to make an appeal for direct support to Ukraine as opposed to some of the, like, everybody had a banner kind of coming up and they were keeping track of donations. And I tried to sort of make the case for direct help to the country itself. There was a bank account set up for wire transfers. The reason I did that was because it was also one of the more difficult ways. Like, there are laws in the country about how those types of donations can be accepted. And so because it was difficult, I don't necessarily see why using them for weapons is a bad thing, because I think the country needs to defend itself. And I actually think so. The specific link that I gave was for medical and logistical support to the armed forces. So if you had hang-ups about weapons, in that case, it wouldn't be used. But yes, it is definitely being used for the people who are fighting. And I tried to provide some context, and I tried to share what was available at the time. And I mean, of course, this was in the early stages when I think everybody did not have a very high perception of the country's chances, and certainly quite a few. I was delighted to be proven wrong, but clearly the country was able to hold. But the consequence to that was the viewership went to zero. It's actually one of the first times that I've had a viewership of zero in years. Nope, Brazilian. And like eventually one of the things that I heard from someone was like, yeah, I just kind of left because like I'd already seen those videos. And I'm sort of like, well, look, I'm sorry, I'm not generating more like combat for you to see. Like I'm sorry this invasion, is not sufficiently entertaining for you, but like I do actually kind of care about this stuff. And it's like it's not just a bandwagon thing. So I really do care about this, and I don't think it's a whole lot to ask for, a few. I think I wound up like 15 minutes, half an hour. Like, I don't really think like a fraction of my runtime on something that I care quite strongly about is all that much to ask. So I'll admit, like, the people who stop watching, like, I can't really blame them, because like in the end you got to decide where you want to spend your time, and like maybe you just don't want to hear about that sort of stuff, and that's fine. I mean, again, I'm sort of running the risk here, but you know, obviously the question was asked, so I figure I kind of owe an answer. You know, there's always going to be something that a broadcaster will say in terms of like, you know, or like there's always that sense of entitlement that somebody should be watched, or that there should be chat interaction, or that there should be, you know, a certain number of viewers, or anything like that. And I really don't think that's a good attitude to have. But on the other hand, like, that was a kind of a clear signal to me in terms of what people's lines and expectations were. And in the end, like, I'll earn my money, right? I go to work. I am still paying down debts, but I try to make sure that I support stuff that I care about. And my effort was to try and encourage people to support something that I thought would be overlooked. In that case, it didn't work out, and it's not my place to tell people how they should be using their money. But yeah, with that in mind, like I don't know. I definitely like talking up things that I support, and Eyes of Sin is one of my one of the people who I really really want to I want to help, and I want to talk up, and more importantly, like it's an example of something that I think benefits this channel, and so it's a little bit easier for me to say this is someone who gives the emotes. But I will admit, like, I'm also not, like, I wish I, like, was this sort of Vulcan and, like, didn't have, any emotional reaction to anything. Everything was viewed through a purely logical lens. But I was actually quite disappointed with that individual when basically, like, I think in the end, like, I kind of would accept a certain amount of indifference where it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and I just don't care about this as much as you do. Like, it's a shame, right? Because if you care about something and someone else doesn't, it's kind of like having a crush on someone and them not, like, feeling the same way. That's just going to suck for a while, and you're eventually going to get over it. But, to have someone kind of say that, it's like, yeah, well, the reason was it just wasn't entertaining enough, is kind of like, well, like, maybe that's not the right framing. And I don't know, like I was playing Stellaris at the time, and like even this game, right? Phantom Brigade has obviously taken on a very different dimension now that the idea of a country being invaded and losing its freedom is sort of back, or potentially losing its its freedom is like back in sort of the public conscious. Like it's not just like a historical artifact, or it's not. And I mean, there's always wars going on, and yes, there are people who are definitely fighting for something they believe very strongly in, or for a better way of life. But in the case of Ukraine, I think it's maybe a little more stark and a little bit more in line with the sorts of plots you might see in a game like this. And in the end, I do think that there is some value in being a little reflective on these things. Anyway, I apologize. I didn't want to drag that out again. But I did actually find out a streamer I really like apparently went there. Some of you were in chat when I found that out. We are healed up, so we're going to contest the province. And we are going to load ourselves up with new gear. So first thing I need to do is get the lance back to its old chonky self. Oh wow, we're already down to 10. What am I doing? Wow, that's what it took to get it to heavy. Okay, interesting. So let's also take a second here. So currently I'm running a charge core. Overdrive will get me some of that speed back. Now what are we looking at for the shotgun? You're joking. I gave up heavy parts. Mind you, I'm actually going to try this one. So it's not like this thing is like, it's definitely not going to do as much damage, but I don't think it's going to take as long to fire. So yeah, we're definitely going to change some of this around. Let's put some better legs on it. I'm tempted to go for the reactor, but I still need to keep that heavy status. I would always watch you a few years ago because my tangents are always educational, so I find it hard to believe to have an issue with anything you broadcast. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, sorry, Beepa. I know you're saying a lot about the war. I'm not ignoring it. I want to make sure that I'm still playing the game a bit. But if there's something you specifically wanted me to comment on, I'll definitely double back and cover it. It's like, so the thing is that there's a selection bias, right? Like if I ask people at the end of the game, or like, so if at the end of the stream I ask people like, hey, would you like to see more Phantom Brigade? Well, obviously the answer is going to be yes, because these are the people who potentially sat through like 3 hours of Phantom Brigade. The people who are not into Phantom Brigade have already left. And I mean, most people don't do the like airport terminal style of Twitch viewership where, you know, they will announce that they're going. Like every once in a while, you know, you will get someone who likes to announce that they're leaving, and sometimes they do it out of courtesy, and sometimes they do it to just like really let you know they're mad about your, you know, your content. But one way or the other, you know, you're not necessarily going to be told from someone that you're not quite hitting the mark. You need to sort of infer that from the way people are reacting. Now, you know, Polonius's advice to his son, to thine own self be true, right? I care about this stuff, and I can't necessarily say I'm right about everything. I, in fact, very often hear you know, where I'm wrong or possibly in moral error, and I think there's a benefit to that, right? The benefit of more open speech is not necessarily the fact that I get to project my opinions out into the world, but more that I get to have the benefit of correction when I'm, you know, on the wrong path. So yeah, I mean, I try and take, you know, when someone disagrees or when someone doesn't care for something in the stream, I try to take that on board as much as I can and use that as an opportunity for reflection to decide, you know, is this thing, you know, necessary, or do I consider this to be sort of central? And, you know, is this coming from a place where, you know, I think there might be some better long-term value? So like a good example would be, I tried writing on stream a couple of times, and I wasn't necessarily opposed to the idea, again, But I think one of the challenges that I ran into was that very often I would be working through an idea and I would get a lot of feedback about what I was quote unquote missing as I was building towards a larger argument. And what I tended to find was, because I had to sort of defend what to me was a fully formed idea, but not yet like written down, and people were really quick to sort of put in those objections. And again, that's the point of writing live, right? Is to be able to have sort of a more, more immediate feedback. But I did ultimately find that didn't necessarily make me write more consistently or any better. And so I sort of set that aside and decided, maybe a different type of stream would be better for me. But in the end, you kind of got to be reflective on that, right? Like sometimes it's like, does it feel weird and uncomfortable because it's new but not necessarily bad? Or is this a signal where something isn't working as well as you necessarily wanted? And in those cases, right, like it's really easy for me to get on my high horse with, that other guy. I mean, I am kind of unhappy with this person, but it's not because of that. It's because there was a while shortly afterwards whenever I would visit their channel, no matter what it was, they would just crap on anything that I expressed interest in. And I'm like, why the hell do I come in here to just hear why everything that I'm interested in sucks? I don't do the airport style of Twitch broadcast. I don't announce that I'm leaving forever. I just kind of move on to something that I think is a better use of my time. But again, like it's tough because generally things that may be true don't necessarily, like they're not always pleasant to hear, right? If you're not meeting expectations, nobody really wants to hear that. But it's sometimes important to hear that because you can't necessarily correct. Like a good example would be at work, right? Like for some of the stuff I've been doing at work, it's been considerably more challenging to, to get a certain project done. And I think I can give a fairly good accounting of my time. Like I haven't been dragging my feet on it, but I think that there have been a lot of shortcuts taken on something that I'm very uncomfortable trying to take myself. And so, I don't necessarily like having to tell someone, look, this thing is late, and like it's not necessarily going to be done anytime soon either. That feels terrible, but I think it's important to be honest with yourself on that sort of thing. And like, to me, like, I think I have good intentions on this, but there's also a famous road paved with good intentions. And to a certain extent, right, like it can be very uncomfortable to say, I don't really think I'm meeting expectations here in terms of like delivering on time. But I think that's better than not saying that and sort of just pretending that the problem doesn't exist. I said, I've admittedly been careful about publicly voicing your opinions on hot topics despite feeling passionately about them, because there are people who are quick to shout you down. I can't emotionally handle that. No, I mean, I also know your background. I know we talk, maybe not as often as I like, but like, I do know we sometimes talk about some of those hot button issues. And I also know that in your context, you've had some people who have not been very, not very sensitive. Like my view has always been that if somebody has to like sort of just say, oh yeah, if only you knew what I knew, then you'd think like me. And it's like, okay, well, if you're so smart, surely you can convince me, right? It's a little bit like, and again, I apologize for the sideline from video games, but like, I kind of liken it to the way that some people treat Twitter. So, like, I'd argue, like, I'm kind of like this for Twitter, where it's kind of like a microblog. Like, I will post stuff because I'm interested, or I think it's kind of funny, or, like, it's just something to share. I try to avoid like the banalities of like, I had a fillet of fish sandwich today. It's the first time I've had a fillet of fish in like 3 years. But then there's like someone who will see it as, you know, like the marketplace of ideas in which everything can be challenged. And like, you know, I'm just trying to share what I had for lunch. And then like someone who thinks of the marketplace of ideas one will come and is like, filet of fish is terrible for you. Do you know how many calories that, like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to share something that happened with me today. Why are you yelling at me? And like, so like that's not actually what I've never shared that. And like, you know, I personally wouldn't do this. Well, see, I don't even necessarily think these people are necessary. Well, in that case, maybe they're like being a jerk. But like, the thing is that there can be cases where people actually do think. Like, again, if you treat it as a microblog, and this you've got someone who actually sees this as a case where you're putting forward a proposition that can be challenged. It's just two different perspectives on Twitter, and clearly both of these coexist, right? There are people who will write like the numbered tweet threads, which I really try to avoid to do. And then there are the people who like sharing, you know, little bits and pieces. Yeah, well, again, intentions matter. There's definitely some really nasty people on Twitter. But like in another sense, there are people who just like maybe haven't quite registered what world they're in. You know, like obviously a fillet of fish is nothing that anybody should, you know, have a wrinkled forehead about. I don't know why I used fillet of fish as example. I like seafood. Not that really counts, but yeah, like it. I think it's kind of like that's the analogy that I kind of like to draw. So, you know, I mean, like I feel like playing this card can sometimes come off as just like trying to sort of signal what a great and virtuous guy. I mean, I know the term is virtue signaling, but like clearly on certain political topics, anyone who presents as a woman is going to be talked to in a certain way, you know, regardless of whether or not, you know, they are actually, you know, a Princeton professor of political science. And I'm really not that comfortable with it, although I don't, you know, like there's only so much that I can do, right? Like I can point it out when I see it, and I can try and lift up voices that I think are being shouted down. But I mean, I don't blame someone for not wanting to speak up when there is the potential that, you know, somebody's going to be shouting you down because you look a certain way, or they assume. Like another thing that I run into. Oh, Phantom Klepto says, I guess I'm going to have to come back from the dead on Twitter to be yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, to a certain extent, right? Like, it doesn't really matter if there's allies around. Like, you may just not want to have to deal with that nonsense, and who can blame you, right? So, you know, I have a lot of sympathy for Eyes of Sin. And again, like, I'm not going to drag Sin's dirty laundry out for the chat to deal with. But, like, I've heard some of the stories that they've had to deal with. And, you know, it's like I said before, it's like, okay, yeah, if you're so smart, then maybe you can convince me instead of just say, you know, I'm uneducated. I try to do the same for myself. Like sometimes people are not necessarily engaging in good faith. And at that point, I don't necessarily mind being a bit shorter. But I kind of feel like I'm failing to make the point if I say I've studied economics, therefore I'm right. Right? Because there's lots of people who've studied economics, and a lot of them have not necessarily come to the conclusions that I have. But of course, like, to deal, I don't want to just make it a gendered thing, because like one of the reason why I bring up the econ side of things is that there's a lot of assumptions that I deal with that on there. So when I was in undergrad, we had a prime minister called Stephen Harper, and he was a prime minister. He was a member of the Conservative Party, head of the Conservative Party, which, as you can guess from the name, is more right wing. So I'm reading this book in a Starbucks, and I notice if you're reading a textbook, particularly one with lots of math, like people really want to talk to you. And I don't know what it is about math that makes people want to talk to you, but I don't know. I like talking about stuff that I'm studying, so that's nice. And the more or less the first thing this person said is like, oh, so you must vote for Stephen Harper then. Hey, thank you very much, Phantom Klepto. It's great having you in the channel again. I will get to the point and do the battle too. And like, I can't blame someone for saying something like that, because it definitely feels like there is a tendency for right-wing parties to kind of aim for, or for some reason have this perception of being particularly good on economic issues. But econ classes are not right-wing indoctrination. Just because you learned in Econ 101 that in a simplified model, a free market is, at least as efficient as, the social planner, that is no more an argument for a free market than it is for an argument run by a benevolent social planner. Although you may ask the question as to where the benevolent social planner comes from. And again, like, I'm inheriting a set of perceptions that have been shaped by decades of political activity, right? I'm not going to change the branding of different political parties. But it is definitely fair to say that I do not, wholeheartedly agree. Well, I mean, not to be boring, but more boring than I already am. Like, it's pretty fair to say that there is no political party that I have perfect alignment with. That doesn't mean that I'm not politically active. That doesn't mean that I don't think, there are more preferable parties to others. But I don't feel the need to be a partisan for a particular group. Although I definitely tend to find that I line up more with one group over another on a lot of issues. And again, like, it's just a question in terms of being able to try not to make too many unhelpful assumptions when, engaging with someone. Again, if you're assuming that someone who's talking about a fillet of fish is wanting to open a debate about the relative merits of, fried fish and tartar sauce, you're probably not going to have a very worthwhile conversation. If you're just like, oh, I had peanut butter and jelly, that can be you can, I don't know, I feel like you can you could probably get more with that. Anyways, I'm running out of steam on some of this stuff. So sprinkles and jam? I've never had sprinkles and jam. I'm just thinking. Oh, right. No, then we lose our chonk. So we're not doing that. I'm curious if I lose my chunk on this. No. Right, we already went for the shotgun. That is absolutely bananas. That the gray shotgun does more damage than any of my others. Okay, I want to do a quick audit on the Sleipnir again. So if I gave it a heat core, I actually think this Elbrus body would work. I do like my heat dissipation, so I think... Ooh. The armor is pretty good, though. Yeah, let's go for it. Maybe pillage the hydraulics. Okay, we already dealt with the lance. Now, I gotta decide between the bull and the ray. Okay, so let's see which machine gun does more damage. So the Hurricane is 450. I think it takes a small eternity to fire. 1.9. By the way, I don't know if you're still around, Eyes of Sin, but I feel like this is a game you would rather like because it's got... like, it's full of mech stuff. So I realize, like, anime... I'm pandering to the anime side of you, but I think in this case it's worth it. The shotgun isn't. Oh, this one takes 3. Okay, I think I am actually gonna. Okay, so I know how I'm gonna do this. So we're gonna lose the machine gun on the ray. I'm actually gonna transform this into a sniper. I do kind of want to bring the sword in, but like both of these are kind of short blades, so. I'm going to put the marksman on this one. The bull's going to get the Hurricane machine gun. Interesting. It actually has worse properties than the alternative, but longer range. Maybe we'll keep the Hurricane for a bit. But yeah, I definitely need to make sure that the heat's under control. Okay, so I can give up a little bit of mass and heat dissipation with the lower Elbrus. Nope. I just need to make sure that it's got a better mobility system. Okay, so apparently there are better heat dissipation options, but... yeah, so it looks like for the most part the trade-off is defense versus heat dissipation. I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest, but let's work with what we've got. Now, I'm a little more tempted to throw the Svalin on this, except that... it is considerably heavier. So we go down to 13. I think we'll try the stance one more time. And then I'll stick with this existing machine gun, but it's under review. Okay, so the Ray's going to be a bit unique here. Actually, I think I'll see how this... I actually think I'll see how the charge core works. I would prefer a certain degree of mobility on this mech. Not at the risk of like completely losing all of its armor, but now the question is, do I want to try and equip it with some kind of melee weapon if it needs to go in close? I think I am going to try. This is going to be a weird one, right? It's like a long range. Or no, actually, let's not get silly. Oh, I don't have the option of artillery. Okay, we are going to use the. We're down to 1376. What kind of thruster do I have on it? Hot rod? It's probably as good as I'm going to get. Maybe the reach, long distance dashing, but overheats, as opposed to the hot rod, which is already... Okay, we'll see how this one goes. And let's... No, we'll still go with the default colors that we got. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a weird loadout, but I can see this working. All right, thanks, Beepo. Oh, that's right, we're still on our way to the target. Oh, wow. Apparently that outpost battle is... Okay, never mind. We need to take... for some reason I thought that we had to defend the monument, but apparently starting the... Ah, okay. This is one of the reasons why I invested in more batteries. So I want to go to timed objectives first. And then, village first, then the battle site, and then that's it. So I'll go stealth. Okay, yeah. Just wait till we're in danger, and then... Surprise! Answering the cry, you hear the commotion in the village as you get closer. A few of the villagers see your base as it rolls in, and you can see the relief flood their faces. Are you here to help us? One of them cries. Disengage! No, suit up. Okay, we're still against the reserves. Medium threat here, so I'm at 159, they're at 180. This is definitely... So we've got kind of a fairly experimental squad here, but it's light rain against 6 enemy units. 2 to 4 might be probably 2 or 3 would be tanks, I suspect. I definitely got to put some more color in the brigade. I was originally thinking that, like, if I built something, I'd color it, but God, the rain effects really sell this. I also think because the province is contested, the background should be sort of fiery and getting negative IFF code. We've got hostiles in range. Engage at will. Reinforcements should be coming soon. So let's see if I can get... Yeah, so you can sort of see the smoke and fire in the background. And yes, 3... No, it is 4 tanks. Okay, well, that's what I... Nostradamus. So I guess this is a chance for me to experiment with my shotgun, but it would be kind of nice to... Okay, so number 1, it'll definitely be nice to try and... Oh, no. That doesn't work. Oh yeah, that's so much better. Holy crap, but that just... Like, I get over... I am guaranteed to damage my mech each time I fire this thing. And unfortunately, it does target me after that. Okay, so I'm going to have to think about this shotgun again. Okay, so I don't like the fact that I kind of need to hide this unit, but because so much enemy effort is spent... Actually, I can maybe work things to my advantage. So if I angle them in a certain way, it might mean that there's friendly fire. I can't quite deliver. Yeah, so instead I'm just going to go around the edge with my shotgun. That's fine. Okay, now hopefully the marksman's going to be able to... Ooh, yeah, there's some opportunities here. So priority number 1, there's an enemy unit attacking me, but notice that they're going to be attacking through their ally. So then we'll set up... And again, notice that this is kind of close to one of those ideal shots that I was talking about, where the enemy is sort of on a track that's basically in line with me. And as it turns out, we've got enough... Would have to move back a bit, but I can do multiple... Turns out I can do multiple shots. But we're not going to hit that tank, so... I'll go second best and shoot. Basically, I just want to shoot whatever I can. So we'll hold position. And then I might want to try and find a better angle. Okay, next up, we're going to try and cause some sadness with our machine guns. So this is a good place to set up. That's going to roll over into the next turn, which I'm not crazy about. So let's just maybe make sure that this is the mech I want to be focusing on. So this one's got an assault rifle. That one's got a marksman rifle. Now, fortunately, they're targeting the wrong unit. So maybe what I do in the back end is the Sleipnir goes around the side. Okay, it's a little too fast for its own good. Okay, that works for me. So I would have preferred to use the Sleipnir for something else, but if I can let the enemy attack their own units, that's a good second best. Unfortunately, I also wind up colliding with one of my own units, so we'll just angle it a little differently. Should still get us to the same place we want to be. Yeah. So run it long enough to damage their own unit, and then move in. I might be able to close with like a cheeky attack, but I don't... Yeah, it's better to just start the attack the next turn. So to be honest, I don't actually think there's a whole lot to watch this time. There's two units that are going to be attacking, but you love to see it. Oh god, that was so good. So that's one mech down at the start. One tank crashing, and the marksman's at half torso health. So again, we're going to take advantage of the fact that the AI cannot get enough of attacking its own units. And of course now, one of the really nice things about the Sleipnir is that it's like... The heat cost for most of its attacks aren't really that high, so you kind of get to take these flyers if you want. Okay. Just making sure the logic works. I don't actually think it's necessary because it's just going to be hitting the side of the hill anyway, but, you know, style points. Yeah, so I mean, we got 4 attacks out of that. That's hard to complain about. Okay, so time for my shotgunner to do its thing. Again, we're going to get a little heat damage each time we use it. Wow, that takes a really long time. It's like that old Chris Rock joke about like making bullets really expensive. That's what this shotgun is. So let's see what kind of damage it does, because I might actually go back to that old auto. No, I don't need to hold... I don't need to hold position with the machine gun. Okay, but I am going to overheat. So in this case, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move... Yeah, it's going to be sort of a circular route, but essentially what I'm going to try and do is dodge the... Well, I'm going to start by giving them an obvious target for the rockets, but then I'm just going to dash and get out of... Actually, you know what? It doesn't actually need to be that hard. I can just hug the hill and I'll probably be fine. Cool. So I feel like my marksman should probably be doing something more exciting. So let's see if... I will confess the opportunities aren't spectacular, but I think we can get something done here. Yeah, so they're in the optimal range for the whole shot. It feels kind of doubtful, so we'll just move into position for the next turn. Okay, so I think the one that I want to follow the most is the Sleipnir for starters, but I do want to see how that shotgun works out too. So the rocket's going to be fired at this guy. I think it was a little premature on the jets. Beautiful concussion, though. Wow. Alright, now we finally get to see this shotgun sing. Okay, I mean that took out the right-hand side in one shot. That's hard to complain about. Woo! These things are getting a little close. So our only option here really is to run. But I'm going to run sort of around the hill. Okay, so basically we're on tank cleanup duty at this point. So where I can, I'll move in close for the assault rifle. That's utterly bizarre that this one's decided to go after the Sleipnir. I guess I was expecting it to kind of stay around the edge here, maybe? Anyway, this should be a pretty easy cleanup job on this tank. Marksman's a little more of a puzzle. We might be able to make something work here. I'm worried I'm pretty sure they're covered by that hill. So I'll make sure I get in position for a second attack. And because this unit really hates me, I'm gonna slightly adjust the plan. So we'll focus on staying put and taking this one out, and then for the shotgunner... Okay, looks like I'm staying put. Gotta wait for the heat to die down. And we just let her rip again. Again, I pretty much damage my own unit every single time I fire this weapon. So I either need to improve my heat capacity or I need to get a different gun. But it does pack a punch, so... Alright, that should cover everyone. A little damage. I mean, 14's not bad. We didn't take out a single tank doing this. Okay, this one's surrendering. That's good. Make sure I sort of going to switch around, and then this should hopefully open up the marksman. Surely that's got to be enough. Like, maybe I'll adjust a little bit to make sure. Ugh. One move per always feels a little... just feels bad. So I'm sort of potentially opening myself up by destroying this tank to the damage from these units, but we are going to crash into it, so... Yeah, that machine gun doesn't really seem to be delivering all that much. Okay, I mean... still not ready to go down. We're committed to keeping the shield up, unfortunately. But yeah, it's one tank, so this can't be the hardest problem in Phantom Brigade. Okay, it'd help if I was targeting the right tank, though. That's a very aggressive, you push the wrong button sound. Listen to that. Alright, a bit of overkill, but that was fun. That was actually a nice one to kind of close off, because, like I said, I've been feeling tired. It's nice to have like one big, meaty, challenging one, and then it's just sort of nice to sort of roll over the enemies after a lot of discussions. So, particularly for those of you who watch on YouTube, I realize the benefit of hearing just an opinionated broadcaster go on at length to an unseen audience is not always the best thing. If you stuck through it till the end here, I do really appreciate that, because I appreciate that there is a fondness for Phantom Brigade, and that sometimes I might be, I may not necessarily be doing the game a favor by streaming it the way that I do. Just please believe me when I sort of say I am trying to do this in good faith, and cover things I'm interested in, talk about things that I'm interested in, and in some ways I feel are somehow relevant to the game or what comes up during the chat. But I know particularly for the YouTube crowd, like this is definitely a game I feel like at some point I should probably just play on my own and do like pre-recorded videos, and I feel that will probably be one that's maybe a little more satisfying to people. More importantly, to all of you who are hanging out, thank you very much for sharing the evening with me. I know I started late, and I had to, like, I know I'm talky. Like, again, I'm not going to pretend I'm not talkative, but I definitely feel like, in this case, when I'm tired, I tend to be a bit more chatty than I normally am, and that can be good in some ways and very like scattered and maybe not the best thing in other cases. This empty spot here makes me think that you can have a fifth member of the squad now. I guess we'll find out in a future episode. I should check the patch notes. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to sound too mopey about the stream. But I hope you had a good time. I will likely not be streaming Phantom Brigade on next Wednesday, because I believe we will be getting a new Industries of Titan update. So I suspect next week we'll be back to Industries of Titan, which to me is good, because I feel like we didn't get to do the last patch all that much before Phantom Brigade came out. But Phantom Brigade usually 2 or 3 weeks after Industries of Titan gets a new update, and so it's 2 or 3 weeks of Titan, 2 or 3 weeks of Phantom Brigade. And Phantom Brigade, there's a little more continuity between sessions. So I hope you are looking forward to that. Let me just see who is online. I will leave you with the excellent opening menu music and the fancy animations, and we'll see if there's anybody we can host. There's a few people we can host. Olaf, thank you very much. I always appreciate I always appreciate you hanging out, especially because you get to see me. You get to see me at my my better moments and my not so better moments. Oh, this is really interesting. So we've got new Mecha Gaming. Bring back Mecha Wednesday and last day before Akon. So let's raid them. There's some good people streaming. IntelliGame's doing Fortnite. Looks like Shan's getting ready to stream. Kilgore Trout's playing Martian Gothic, but it is such a rare chance for me to be able to... it's a rare chance for me to be able to give some support to another Phantom Brigade streamer, and honestly, this is a really great game. Again, I'm absolutely thrilled that Brace Yourself entrusted me with a key for this, because this is definitely a game right up my alley. And, you know, maybe, again, if you're a broadcaster yourself and you happen to be streaming around the times that I broadcast, like, I, for the most part, find myself in a situation where I would like to host people playing this game, and generally I will not find people playing it at the times that I'm looking for it. So look, I'm not gonna make you a partner. You know, my numbers are pretty public. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a game for which I suspect there is demand, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, if I see somebody streaming this game, unless I know they're just a straight up jerk, like, I'm gonna host them. So with that in mind, though, I will see some of you on Friday for some more Old World. For those of you who like the Brace Yourself stuff, we will see you in a week for Industries of Titan. And then somewhere in the middle there, Monday we'll be doing a game. I don't even know what game we're going to be doing. We might try and shift Old World to the Monday slot, and then that'll leave my Fridays open. But everything's chaos now, so I'll figure it all out. I'll put it on Twitter when I do figure it out. I got 10 seconds, so enjoy new Mecha Gaming. I hope they're good, and have a lovely evening.